In an excellent rendition of every toy train enthusiast's biggest dream, Railway Empire is all about building railroads, lots and lots of railroads, and then setting up switches and stations with as many trains as you can put on them. Unfortunately, overcomplicated systems and poor interfaces end up grinding the fun to a screeching halt. While you could just build the rail network of your dreams in sandbox mode, the game's primary means for directing your efforts come from sets of objectives in various scenarios. They range from easy, like having a specific number of cities connected to the rails, to the seemingly impossible, like making $15 million of profit every 3 months. I'm still not sure how you're supposed to accomplish that. My best effort got me to just 5 million, even with over 100 rail lines. To prevent success from being inevitable, each objective comes with a time limit attached. You'll usually have between 3 and 10 years to accomplish them, though you'll have to work on several at the same time. The faster you complete them, the higher your score is at the end of the scenario, and the higher you'll rank in a civilization-like rating scale. That may sound like a lot of time, but the game apparently exists in a deep gravity well, where a trip from San Francisco to Salt Lake City can take well over a month. There also seem to be artificial constraints on some objectives, such as when ferrying passengers to newly connected frontier towns. No matter how hard you try, you can only get a few to travel at a time. Apart from the scenario objectives, the goal of Railway Empire is the same as any other tycoon game: make as much money as you can. You accomplish this by ferrying passengers and cargo between cities and rural businesses, owning those businesses, and running industries in cities. Building stations is simple. You just need to pick the station size, which determines the number of rail lines supported as well as how fast loading and unloading takes place, and place it within a certain radius of that city or business. To accommodate the large number of rural lines and stations that are needed to supply larger cities, you can also build warehouses, where cargo is stockpiled before being picked up by a separate rail line to be distributed. Building the railroads themselves is also very simple, but occasionally frustrating. Like laying down paths in other games, tracks are placed by clicking on an existing endpoint, or anywhere along another track to create a switch, and then clicking on the terrain to set inflection points. Care must be taken to not have too steep a slope for the trains to run on, or utilize too many tunnels and bridges that make costs skyrocket. Exactly where the tracks should go isn't obvious by just looking at the map, so the process involves a lot of trial, error, and starting over. With all the infrastructure created, all that remains is to purchase locomotives and set up their routes. This is where a few cracks start showing in the game. Cities want a variety of supplies, but if a train has the opportunity to pick up one along its route, it will tend to fill up all 8 of its cars with that type of cargo, rather than trying to get a variety of goods. There are ways to try and control this, but it makes it very difficult to keep the cities fully supplied. Succeeding in that is important, because it's the mechanism by which they grow in population and how factories keep churning out goods. Creating lines between cities allows you to move passengers, mail, and the products of those factories between them. Using a fast train in a direct route can cause it to become an express route that increases the money made from passengers and mail, but if a faster train comes out, it can lose that distinction. You periodically have the chance to improve your trains and company by unlocking items in the game's expansive tech tree, and by hiring personnel to work on the trains and in the company office. Employees have personalities that can clash or mesh with those of others, causing corresponding penalties and improvements in performance. They also improve over time as they get experience. Managing this so that the right people are working on the right trains can really improve their profit. In addition, using various freelancers can affect the game in a number of ways, from making a competitor's stock price drop, to promoting your rail lines to increase the number of traveling passengers. Finally, you can build new industries and civic buildings in the various cities strewn across the map. In addition to providing money, industries allow you to ensure that the finished goods desired by large cities are available for you to distribute. Civic buildings can increase the desirability of a city as a passenger destination, or even provide you with additional innovation points every month to put towards new technologies. In case it's not clear from everything I just said, there is a lot going on in this game. Keeping track of what resources are needed where, and what trains can provide it, is a huge challenge on its own. Not to mention having a coherent plan on when to buy stocks, industries, use specialists, and so on. Unfortunately, the game's interface adds to the difficulty here, as the information needed to make these kinds of decisions isn't on the main map, or even in each city's main panel. It's in a detail screen you get to from the main panel. On top of that, there's no trend data or other indication that supplies are incoming, so a city could be saying it's out of wood, and a train bearing 8 cars full of it is about to trundle in. Given how critical optimizing this flow of goods is, both to making profit and increasing city population, not understanding what you should be changing in order to further those goals is extremely frustrating. Making all of this even more complicated is the complex interactions that occur when multiple trains share the same track. The game tries to teach you where to place signals in order to ensure that everything stays running smoothly, but it's still very easy to mess up. Left on its own, the game occasionally makes incorrect decisions, like having two trains running in opposite directions on the same track. Fortunately, you can tell the trains which track to use at any given point. However, the interface for doing so via waypoints and the track to use at a given train station, or even performing partial track destruction when making modifications, are never called out or explained, and are not easy to discover on your own. Even when you have a setup that's successful for years, a glitch in timing or a single extra train can send the system into a giant traffic jam. When this happens, the actual cause of the issue isn't displayed at all. Unless you can find the source, the only solution is to delete one of the offending trains. The primary moral hazard in the game comes in the form of spies, bandits, and other members of the underworld you can hire to undermine your competitors. Nothing is shown other than a targeting dialogue and a success or failure message, but paying criminals to rob people doesn't feel like something a Christian business owner should do. They also come up fairly frequently, though they are mixed in with other more traditional job applicants. There was one other element that felt off. When discussing the Civil War during the campaign, slavery wasn't mentioned at all. Just ideological, political, and economic differences. It may not have been an intentional omission, but especially given how the subject is currently treated, seemed significant. The game's main campaign, which is composed of 5 scenarios, takes about 15 hours to complete. This is far from all the game has to offer, however. To start with, the campaign only covers 2 of the available 6 eras, meaning that most of the available tech tree, and thus trains, aren't ever used. To play with them, more than 10 other standalone scenarios are available that cover all the game's content. Additionally, the standard Instant Action mode allows you to play in any region of the country and in any era, with randomized objectives. If you enjoy the game, you'll always have another challenge to tackle. I'm giving Railway Empire a 4 out of 5 for morality. You can definitely avoid using bandits and saboteurs, but the game is constantly presenting you with opportunities to do so. For quality, I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. It's certainly worth getting if you like deep economic and logistical strategy. For me, though, it always felt like I was in over my head.